Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Do you love movies? So do I. What's up, y'all? It's KB, and I love movies, inviting you to listen to The Conversation, a film podcast where passion meets perspective and opinion. From the old school to the new, I invite a guest on to discuss the movies that thrill us, challenge us, break our hearts, or even blow our minds. There's always new episodes dropping wherever you get your podcasts. So join the conversation. We don't just watch movies. We love talking about them too. The Conversation with KB Loves Movies, a part of Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
We're in Wave Media. Welcome back, Midnight viewers, to Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. I'm Ripley Jean, and with me, as always, is Father Malone. What? Well, you'd make an adorable fake priest. That's true. No one wants to see me in my underwear fighting an alien. Well, no matter who's who, we welcome you to the show. Having an action-packed new year? Woohoo! Okay. Call to action. Hey, friends. Why haven't you simply pushed the subscribe button? Maybe it's because it's a follow button instead. Either way, click it. Do it. Thank you. Now on with the show. If you listened in last week, I talked about my adoration for The Lonely Island and the work they did on SNL. And if you listen to this show with any regularity, you should know the adoration I feel for their work on SNL is so minuscule when it comes for the totality of love I feel for Saturday Night Live. There's a tidal wave of ass-kissing going on right now because it is the 50th anniversary, 50th season, but try to ignore all the fawning. Don't let it cloud your judgment. SNL has always been great, and it's always been terrible, just like all your favorite things, sweet and sour. I mentioned in an earlier episode, that's the crossover with the Culture Cast, where we discussed Jason Reitman's film Saturday Night, that chronicles the 90 minutes leading up to the pilot episode of SNL, which you can go back and listen to after this. It's all a call to action. There, I mentioned that my very first memory of television is Dan Aykroyd as Julia Child bleeding all over a kitchen set after slicing into his own hand. You know, everyone always asks what movie you first remember seeing, but no one ever asks about television. Though I suspect that'll change with future generations, given the current cratering of the theatrical experience. So anyway, my earliest memory then threaded throughout the rest of my life. There have been fallow periods over the past 5 decades for SNL. During those periods, when people were wondering, who even watches that anymore? Me. I was. Every season. Michaels to Domanian to Ebersole and back to Michaels. Oh sure, everyone was into it when Dana Carvey and Jan Hooks are around, but where were you when I was stranded alone with Joe Piscopo and Charlie Rocket? Huh? Even that season of Free Fall after the original cast and Michaels had exited could have worked. Honestly, any season of the show could work, if the writing and performing are in sync, which is, evidently, like herding cats. Couple that miracle with the pressure cooker of live performance of material that was written over the past 5 days, every week, It's a miracle anything of quality comes out of the show. But that quality is always there, and even the worst episode will get at least one laugh out of me, which is something I can't say for some 2-hour comedy films that were written over months and then produced and filmed and edited over a year, and not one laugh. As much as I love the show, however, I am not an apologist. Those fallow periods when the show is reinventing itself is concentrated awful. But remember, there has never been a season of perfection. That's a lie we've all accepted through the decades, thanks to repackaged reruns and videotape best-of collections. Even in its renaissance periods, there are clunkers. I end up saying that about every television series we cover here on Midnight Viewing. We go in with fond remembrance of all the gloried moments of a series, forgetting that there was a lot of chaff in that wheat. SNL is an extremely well-covered television show. If you have any interest in those first 10 years, check out Saturday Night, a backstage history of Saturday Night Live by Doug Hill and Jeff Weingrad. It is indispensable. They talk to everyone and pull no punches. Yes, it has the Bill Murray, Chevy Chase fistfight story in all of its glory. Go fuck your wife. She needs it. Bill Murray is a savage. Also, there's Live from New York, the complete uncensored history of Saturday Night Live as told by its stars, writers, and guests by Tom Shales and James Andrew Miller, which gets you up to speed as of 20 years ago. There have been puff pieces and exposés and 100 cries of Saturday Night Dead, but very little has come out behind the scenes from the show, and Broadway video, and Michaels himself. So it was pretty exciting to hear about the slew of documentaries on the way to commemorate the 50th. The first of those just landed over on Peacock. It is a 4-part look into 4 aspects of the show's production, and it's appropriately called SNL Beyond Saturday Night.
Anybody could do comedy. I could teach all of y'all in here how to tell jokes and be comedy, but are you funny?
SNL was the biggest show ever.
There was nothing like it.
Wild and crazy guy in a band down by the river.
It's an American institution.
Superstar.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
Any questions? You may be wondering why you've never heard this story before.
I don't know what story you heard, but this is what happened.
You know what? It's fine. Let's just do the thing.
Everything you're about to see has never been seen before.
Hi.
Here we go.
I'm not sure. I'm Amy Poehler. Okay, that's enough.
It all started coming in here to audition.
Some people are so nervous they can't even speak.
It was terrifying. My first audition, I threw up.
I think it's a miracle that I'm sitting here right now.
This is beyond my wildest dreams that you're making a documentary about the cowbell sketch.
Do you think that the writers get credit that they deserve?
Absolutely not.
I don't think so.
No.
Oh dear, you've really stepped on a landmine here.
You're just thinking, there's no way this is going to go smoothly 15 minutes from now.
Might be a bloodbath.
After a decade on the air, SNL is on the brink of cancellation.
I didn't know that it'd be such a difficult year.
The weird year is the polite way to put it. Most people say to me it was the bad year.
It was so bad that it could have been canceled.
I still have nightmares about the stress of Saturday night.
It is built on competition. Can you be your authentic self?
It's a real dream come true.
It was everything. I loved that show. I was on it.
Live from New York.
Live from New York.
Live from New York.
Live from New York!
Oh boy.
Those 4 episodes are each about an hour in length. They are 5 minutes, written by A Week into the SNL Writers' Room, More Cowbell, and The Weird Year. 5 minutes is about the 5 minutes you're given to audition for the show and talks to a vast array of current and past actors who have appeared. Written by is self-explanatory. The Weird Year is about the 85 season when Lorne returned and started to rebuild the show. But More Cowbell, listen, I loved that sketch. As much as it took a song that always straddled the line between sincere and cheesy and just drop-kicked it into a bucket of melted Velveeta, thus ruining it forever, I love that sketch. You all know it. We all had the fever and there was only one cure. But if you're given 4 hours to touch on any aspect of the process of making Saturday Night Live, from any era, with any cast, or any set of writers, or any musicians, and I'm not even talking about the guests who have come on to play their latest hits, I'm talking about the Saturday Night Live band. That was once conducted by Howard Shore, who'd eventually write the music for the Lord of the Rings films. His replacement was Paul Schaefer, who'd run the world's most dangerous band for Letterman for 3 decades. Remember E.G. Smith teaching the entire world the meaning of guitar face? And that's just one small aspect of the show worth examination. But 1 hour devoted to the genesis of what was at best a catchphrase generator baffles me. Remember when everyone, and I fucking mean everyone, thought it was hilarious to say something and then yell, "Not!" I wouldn't suggest watching an hour about the genesis of Wayne's World either, but it would seem to be about a subject that had greater ripples in the real world than that one meme we all got. It's not a total waste of time if you need another dose of Jimmy Fallon giggling his way through memories of how unprofessional a performer he was, or if you're actually interested in what Blue Oyster Cult thought of the sketch. Boy, you're in for a real fucking treat. So this is a 3-part series about SNL. The most successful is episode 4, The Weird Year. It's a far more harrowing tale than just getting on the show or getting the show on the air for the first time. After 5 solid years of steadily declining ratings, SNL was ready for the scrap heap. Michael's return was a Hail Mary for all involved. The previous season was a different kind of Hail Mary by Dick Ebersol when he restocked the cast with ringers like Billy Crystal, Martin Short, Harry Shearer, and Christopher Guest. Michaels had to start from scratch, restocking the cast and pulling in writers both old and new. Remember how I said any season could work if the cast and writers sync? Not what happened here. Terry Sweeney is a very funny comedian and performer, and was not only SNL's first openly gay cast member, he may have been the first openly gay performer on television. Ever. But who on that writing staff knew one fucking thing to write for him? The writing staff has always been accused of being a boys' club, to which I'd say Ann Beats, Marilyn Suzanne Miller, Rosie Schuster, Sarah Paley, Patricia Marks, Pamela Norris, you get the idea. The problem was more straight and white, I think. It doesn't seem like Terry Sweeney was able to partner up with anyone, but then most performers couldn't seem to do that either, which is scandalous considering who was on the staff. Not only were there returning heavy hitters like Michael O'Donoghue, Franken and Davis, Jim Downey, Herb Sargent, and Don Novello, but there was also Mark McKinney and Bruce McCullough from The Kids in the Hall, Jack Handy, Deep Thoughts, John Swartzwelder and George Meyer, who'd go on to write the best episodes of The Simpsons, and Robert fucking Smigel. Sounds unbeatable, but, maybe the cast wasn't exactly perfect. Anthony Michael Hall, Randy Quaid, Denitra Vance, Sweeney, Damon Wayans, notoriously one of the few actors fired from the show while the show was still going. He's here to give his side of it, and it's great. Rounding out the cast were the ones who'd continue forward, Dennis Miller, Nora Dunn, and John Lovitz. It's Lovitz's stuff that shined then and now, and it's his sketch, Master Thespian with John Lithgow, that allows for the entire documentary's moment of clarity. John Lithgow remembers the show thusly.
My first hosting job for SNL in only like the 4th episode of this brand new company, I remember having the feeling that everybody was trying out their own material.
Basically, it's a career move. It's finally my chance to prove once and for all that I'm more than just another teen actor, young actor, Brat Pack Dookie.
They were trying to make their own identity rather than the identity of SNL. I think that was the whole problem.
It's a fascinating hour about a seldom discussed era of the show. The one thing it's missing is the one thing that's ultimately missing from all of the episodes, and that's Lorne Michaels. He shows up in every single one of them, though he continues to remain the figure of mystery at the edge of frame, commenting cryptically here and there. But there's no great interaction with him at all. In fact, any of the on-camera, straight-up interview footage they have of him is from 2005, and clearly from a documentary about the 30th anniversary. Now, the fact that he's maintained this level of mystique over the decades is admirable. Even more so that basically everyone who's ever had an interaction with him has 1, an impression of him, and 2, can tell you almost everything about their dealings with him while maintaining how inscrutable he is. I mentioned there's a slew of documentaries on the way, and evidently one is dedicated specifically to Lorne Michaels, so I'm assuming that all the intentions and motivations and theories of his will come to light there. I hope so, because as fascinating as any of these probes into the various strata of SNL can be, a little more insight from the creator would be welcome. 5 minutes, the first episode is a delight. How couldn't it be? It's all of your favorite performers from the past 50 years regaling us with tales of horror and heartbreak that led to a life-changing stint on a television institution. What's better is that we get to see those moments. Every audition for SNL remains thanks to the glory of videotape, and it's pretty fucking awesome to watch someone as seasoned as Amy Poehler struggle to get through even a minute of hers. Oh, there is so much shudderingly cringeworthy on display, it's glorious. And there are just as many right-out-of-the-gate superstar performances that it's kind of staggering. Every character that Kristen Wiig auditioned with became not just a sketch, but a recurring sketch. Speaking of staggering, the compilation of those who weren't hired, the Jim Carreys, the Jennifer Coolidges, the Donald Glovers, is mind-blowing, especially when you see how fucking good they were doing. How did they not get the gig? Who could answer that? No one in this episode. See what I'm saying? There are major questions at the heart of each of these segments that have answers that we can only get from one man. And ultimately, as lovely as it is to see Bobby Moynihan tearfully recall his time on the show, this episode would have been equally successful had it just been a string of the auditions themselves. The next episode, written by, follows the season 49 writers from the Monday meeting to air, interspersed with discussions on the show's environment, schedule, hierarchy, and history by some of the best writers who've ever worked there. Any chance to spotlight the writers of this show is a winning one, so bravo. The problem, or maybe this is illustrative of the show's wildly swinging personality, is that the show the doc crew has chosen to cover isn't very funny. The writers are charming, no doubt, and we've seen them do really good work elsewhere that season and on into the current season, but since nothing is really happening comedically, you hope to see some of the panic and the pressure that literally everyone interviewed here talks about, but instead it's all very quiet and mellow and businesslike. Which is great for them, I guess. But it ends up making this another TV magazine piece, the kind you'd get from Entertainment Tonight, except the access to the writers and the materials are beyond whatever the most sycophantic piece could ever hope to achieve. Each of the episodes, except that fucking cowbell, is worth a watch. The wealth of material on display is incredible and incredibly funny. I doubt I'll see a funnier documentary anytime in the near future. But honestly, if you were to ask me to sit down and write a first-person account of what it was like to audition and get hired, and how tough my first year was, and how interacting with Lorne and the writers was, and how I found my groove, I think I could do it pretty convincingly. Because everything presented in these shows has been around in copious amounts. The two books I mentioned at the top are perfect examples. If you've read them and want to know something new about the process, you're out of luck. If you want to hear personal reflections and how the actual people felt about their time there, then these are great. Or would be, if any of those personal reflections included those of Mr. Lorne Michaels. I don't want to hear your Lorne Michaels impression. Oh, the listeners do. Gotcha. Okay, hit me.
It was 1980. I was on the Upper West Side living with Paul Simon, and Ted Bundy called me and he said, look, I just killed these two girls in Florida. And I went, no, I know.
Jesus, you heard her, HP.
Come and listen to a dog that's hip. Here we go, it's Rips Picks, yeah!
Thank you, HP. In this fantasy scenario, you were in the SNL band. Here's a Paul Schaefer fun fact. His nickname is The Shiv. That's right, Paul the Shiv Schaefer. Fucking love him. So, what's on the agenda, little monkey? What's your choice for the roundup? Excellent. And appropriate. This past weekend, we lost David Lynch. He's a mammoth in filmmaking, and I don't think we're going to see his like again. Also passing, and oddly more importantly here on Midnight Viewing, was Mr. Jeannot Szwarc. He directed 22 segments of Night Gallery, he did 2 episodes of Twilight Zone 85, and in each of those I've been his frequent champion and vocal defender. He was never less than a filmmaker in any media. Whatever faults there were in any of his Night Gallery segments, they weren't his. Szwarc's problem has always been the material. You can make good great, but bad will only ever be a little better. That better part is Szwarc. He toiled mightily against budget constraints and scheduling nightmares and uncooperative casts and second-guessing producers, and managed to produce some of the most striking pieces of anthology television ever. So pressure and deadlines were nothing new to him when Night Gallery's production designer, Joe Alves, recommended he take over the already troubled production of Jaws 2.
When the movie Jaws first opened, it created a sensation. and shark sightings increased by the thousands. In all the vast and unknown depths of the ocean, how could there have been only one? Once, there was a terrible tragedy here, but today, Amity has a new hotel and the promise of a perfect summer. Now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, the legend continues.
Chief? Chief Brody, can we go, please?
I think we may have another shark problem. Are you serious?
Roy Scheider.
The homies looks incredible.
Lorraine Gary. And Murray Hamilton.
Look at this. That's a shark.
Look, Brody, you started a panic on a public beach. Now, what if somebody decides to sue us? That's a shark. Did you ever stop to think about that?
And I know what a shark looks like because I've seen one up close. You better do something about this one because I don't intend to go through that hell again.
Don't press it this time.
Mike is out there. Over there! Oh, God, it Oh, there's a big shark out here! All I know is a boy is dead and my son and husband is still out there. Get me out! Get me out of the water! Watch out!
None of man's fantasies of evil can compare with the reality of Jaws. The all-new Jaws 2. See it before you go back in the water.
Wow, now how's that for a trailer? Really tells the story. I love it. And that's Percy Rodriguez doing the narration. He's the voice of the Lochnar in Heavy Metal, which we covered over on Anthology's Attack, and you can hear that after you listen to our Saturday night episode after you listen to this. The other voice I want to point out in that trailer belongs to the character of Tina, played by Ann Dusenberry. And that scene is terrific, which is a weird way to describe it because it's actually horrifying. Tina and her boyfriend Eddie are out in the middle of the ocean in a tiny sailboat. It's a rowboat with a sail. And the attack is brutal, and while the actors are certainly helping, it is a visual treat, just ratcheting the tension and hammering you. However, there's an aftermath scene where Tina has been rescued, and Ann Dusenberry delivers in one line all the horror you could wring out of even the best directed, most frightening sequence of all time. Here it is.
No.
You're all right. You're all right. All right. Ellen.
It's Tina. Still there. Tina, it's okay. It's still there. What's the matter? What's still there? What's still there?
Seeing that for the first time, as young as I was, made me understand the fragility of the human psyche, and how sometimes it's totally warranted in breaking apart. Did I say troubled production? From jump. Before Jaws had even finished demolishing the box office in its opening weekend, Universal was already pursuing a sequel. Zanuck and Brown, the original film's producers, wanting to keep control, jumped aboard immediately. Original ideas for the script included the sons of Quint and Brody going after their own shark, and, this one's intriguing, Howard Sackler, who is uncredited on the first film but did do a draft or two, proposed a prequel film in which they dramatized the Indianapolis speech from the first film with young Quint as the lead. Instead, Sackler ended up giving us the further adventures of Chief Brody and that time another shark came to Amity Island. Scheider had recently dropped out of The Deer Hunter, and Universal forgave that and the other two films he owed them if he'd appear in Jaws 2. Scheider was not pleased. While he is the lead, they let him off the hook a bit, relegating the ocean adventures mainly to a group of Amity Island teenagers, whose flotilla of sailboats become fouled and drifting and at the mercy of Jaws 2. Now he's got scars. Jaws 1, he was cool, I guess. In a you-never-see-the-motherfucker kind of way. Jaws 2, battle scars for all to see. And I'll jump out of the water multiple times. So they've got a script, and they've got a cast, and they've got a director, and not so fast. After a month of filming or thereabouts, original director John D. Hancock is pulled, and that's when Joe Alves, the man responsible for The Shark, and would do the production design just a few years later on Escape from New York, who recommends his frequent Night Gallery collaborator, Jeannot Szwarc. Given that he could turn around a full episode of excellently shot television in sometimes half a day, must have been a selling point. Couldn't hurt that Spielberg also got his start on Night Gallery. Szwarc heads off to shoot the film's trailer darling sequence, the water skiing attack, which allows Carl Gottlieb, the real MVP of Jaws, him and Verna Fields, to rewrite the script, dropping a bunch of teens and adding Deputy Hendricks back to the plot. And then everything went great. Except the usual problems of shooting on the ocean resurfaced, plus the cast was mainly young actors in their 20s, so hijinks, and Scheider clashed frequently with Szwarc over the way the film was being shot. Now, I love Roy Scheider, but word is his main complaint seemed to revolve around the fact that others were getting the spotlight in his scenes. So kind of fuck you, Roy Scheider, but that in no way means that I'm saying Roy Scheider doesn't deliver in his performance. It's as good as anything he's done, honestly. In fact, for all his bitching, his performance actually expands and deepens Brody as a character. For all the carbon copy criticism the film would receive, you can't lay that blame on Scheider. He could very easily have sleepwalked through this role, but the man is a fucking pro, even if he sometimes takes a swing at the director. One element Szwarc didn't change was the film's composer. John Williams had already won an Academy Award for the film's iconic ba-dum. I once saw John Williams conducting the Boston Pops with an evening of music from the films of Steven Spielberg. Spielberg was meant to attend and introduce each piece, but Kate Capshaw was giving birth at that moment, and he bowed out. Selfish prick. But when the first two notes of Jaws came shivering out, the audience began tittering. It was the quietest roar I've ever heard, and John Williams turned to us, very slowly, then, even slower, brought his fingers to his lips and shushed us. And then he continued. Now, I have no idea if I was making noise with everybody else, probably, but I feel pretty great having been told by John Williams to be quiet and pay attention to his music. And what music! We all know that original theme, and we probably all know the cues by heart, but I will contend, yes, I'm going to say it, Jaws 2 is the superior soundtrack. It is. It's got everything from the original, but it builds on it, in the way only Williams seems capable of when it comes to franchised entertainment. There's a brief moment in Jaws when the tourists are arriving where the score becomes really jaunty with a cornet. Williams takes that and fucking runs with it, turning the mostly frightening and tension-filled score on its head and giving it a bit of levity and life. I think critical reaction and the public reaction to the film was less than kind at the time. How do you follow the blockbuster with anything that would satisfy? But the fact is, the film has been properly reassessed and I think has garnered a reputation that, if it isn't glowing, it's at least a more fair assessment of the film on its own, especially given the fucking horrible sequence we've been plagued with ever since. And while I don't think that behind-the-scenes stories of how a film came together should ever be levied against the quality of the finished endeavor, I do think my appreciation for Jaws only climbs when you consider that this mostly television director was dropped into the middle of a giant studio machine that was already barreling forward, had barreled forward, they were filming, oversaw a new draft of the script, contended with water and weather and unruly actors, and somehow not only turned in a cohesive film and a worthy continuation of the first film's story, but an entertaining one at that. Everyone was expecting any film with a 2 after the title to be on par with Godfather 2, which is fucking bonkers. Now, granted, what followed in the years after that film were sequels like Exorcist 2 and Omen 2. The world wasn't ready for aliens yet. They couldn't quite grasp that the original magic wasn't coming back and a different tack was required. Nearly every horror sequel ends up being an action remake of the first film, for good or ill. In the case of Jaws 2, very, very good. And that was a good choice, Ripley, and you're a very good dog. Yes, you are. Oh, you can't fool me. You love it. I'm going to scratch that belly. Thank you once again for joining us here at Father Malone's Weekly Roundup. Be sure to join us this Friday for Midnight Viewing, the horror anthology podcast, where we are continuing our look at Tales from the Dark Side. In fact, that episode marks the start of Darkside's 3rd season. One of those is written by the man himself, Mr. George Andrew Romero. I already escorted you to subscribe, but maybe you could also give us 5 stars? Maybe 6? Do they have more than 5? Whatever it is, give us the max. The Max Headroom. Did anyone who was older than 12 when Max Headroom hit the scene just immediately get the joke in that name? Was it like hearing that Lux Interior was the lead singer of the Cramps? My tiny brain just thought his name was Max Headroom. I was floored when I found out it was a warning sign that the lead smacked his head on, giving birth to that digital provocateur. Yeah, maybe we will cover it in a future episode. Right after the fog. If you want to support us financially, head over to patreon.com/Father Malone. There you will receive episodes early and commercial-free, and you'll get access to our exclusive shows like Cable Box Theater, where Noise Junkies host HP and I revisit the late 70s, early 80s cable television stations when they were desperate for content and resorted to showing videotaped Broadway plays. Ooh, they are something. Gonna leave you with a bit from SNL. Maybe they could dedicate an entire documentary to this.
Yeah, this isn't so much a question about you, but I'm a big Twin Peaks fan, and I was kind of wondering, are we going to find out this year who killed Laura Palmer?
Yeah, it's Shelley the waitress, and they're gonna reveal that in the last episode. So.
Carl, could you come into the control room for a moment? There's a phone call for you.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me.
It's David Lynch.
David, hey, are you watching? Well, what do you think? Well, he asked me. What was I supposed to do? Lie? I've been in the business for 6 years, David. You know that. What good would it be telling? It's Shelley, David. I mean, the episode's been shot. It's Shelley, okay? They're going to find out eventually. Okay. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand. Okay. I'll try. All right. Excuse me. I want to say one thing. Earlier when I made the joke about Shelley, the waitress, killing Laura Palmer, I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that it was a joke. And, obviously I wouldn't come out here and tell you that, that it was real and ruin my chances of being in the 2nd season. I mean, only a real idiot who never wanted to work in Hollywood and who deserves a real big spanking would do such a stupid thing like that. So, anyway, we've got a great show, so stick around. We'll be right back.
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.